Be on the lookout for an invasive species that will tear through your landscaping.
Invasive species is threatening to chew its way across Metro Detroit.
Yeah, it's called the Box Tree Moth.
Box Tree Moth.
Box Tree Moth.
The moth and caterpillar only feeds on boxwood shrubs.
Box tree moths are now a real problem here in Michigan. It's already costing millions or even billions of dollars in damages in the infected areas. And it's costing homeowners thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the number of boxwoods in their landscape. So if you've got boxwoods or buxus in your landscape, this is something you need to be paying attention to before the caterpillars bite a hole out of your wallet. In this video, I'm going to go over a couple different ways you can go about fixing this issue, whether it's removing the boxwood altogether and possibly replacing it, or treating the boxwood with chemicals.
It's a treatable pest, and if you don't treat, you'll have dead plants.
If the boxwood is already dead, then treatment won't work and the shrub will need to be removed completely. There are alternative plants out there, like certain hollies, yews, junipers, arborvitae, and other shrubs, but there isn't one perfect replacement that does everything boxwood does in every landscape. I also want to note that treatment is an ongoing process, and with that comes ongoing costs. So stay tuned for me to go over a few ways you can tackle this caterpillar invasion. Also, you can check out the description for links to bulletins and more helpful information on box tree moths. And when I say boxwoods, I'm talking about these shrubs right here. They're in front yards, foundation beds, formal hedges, commercial properties, and neighborhood entrances all over the place. They're one of those plants people use because they stay green, they're easy to shape, deer usually leave them alone, and they give a landscape that clean, finished look. But right now, there's an invasive pest that is putting a lot of those plants at risk. This is the box tree moth caterpillar. The adult moth is part of the problem because it spreads and lays eggs, but this stage right here, the caterpillar stage, is where the real damage happens. These things feed on boxwood leaves, and they don't just nibble a little bit around the edge. These small insects have a big appetite and can devour plants quickly depending on how many caterpillar are on each plant. They can strip the plant down, chew the leaves and stems down, leave webbing inside the plant, and once the feeding gets bad enough, the whole shrub can start looking brown, scorched, and dead. And the scary part is a lot of homeowners won't even know they're there until it's too late because these little guys camouflage so well into the plant and they hide inside the canopies. Recently, I inspected a client's boxwood shrub that's in their landscape, and I found over 25 of these little destroyers in just one hedge. So from the outside, the plant might look mostly fine for a little while, but inside they're feeding, webbing, and building up. By the time the damage is obvious from the curb, you might already be dealing with a pretty serious infestation. The signs to look for are chewed leaves, webbing inside the plant, little greenish-black droppings, and sections of the boxwood that suddenly start browning out or looking thin. That's different from normal winter burn or a plant just being stressed. This is feeding damage, and it can move fast when there are multiple generations feeding through the season. Not only do they get through plants quick, they also spread quick. I was recently in a local area where I service a few houses, and while I was there, I noticed something I knew I just had to show you. Take a look at this video I took of boxwood shrubs. I want you to see this so you know what to look for and what it can get to. Not every house in this video is a client of mine, but almost every property does have boxwood trees. Now you can see 6 properties here have all had their plants damaged by the pesky caterpillars, and the boxwood trees are losing leaves, going brown, and looking a little worse for wear. Once I went into a few of the shrubs to inspect closer, it was shocking how many I found. Check this out. This is from just one look into one shrub, and I found over 25 caterpillars just in this one video. That's how well they hide. This shrub is getting eaten down, and you wouldn't even know it without knowing what to look for. Now, I want to be clear here. This video is not me telling you to go out and spray every boxwood you own. The point is awareness. When people panic, they tend to either ignore the problem completely, or they go the other way and start spraying whatever they find on the shelf. Neither one is a good system. From what MSU and other extension resources are putting out, the products and active ingredients being discussed for box tree moth are things like BT caterpillar products, spinosad products, and professional products using pyrethroids or other caterpillar control chemistry. You can buy a lot of these chemicals over the counter at places like Home Depot or Lowe's and treat it yourself, or you can pay a professional company to treat it. If you do it yourself, I cannot stress enough how important it is that you handle the product according to the label, wear the proper PPE, and follow the directions carefully, or keep it simple and hire a professional. But the key thing is this: the product, the timing, the life stage, and the label are all important. Young caterpillars are generally easier to control than older caterpillars buried deep inside a webbed-up canopy. Once the plant is heavily infested, spray coverage gets harder, effectiveness can drop, and the damage may already be too far along. That's why catching it early is important. Another important thing is that broad-spectrum insecticides are not something to throw around casually. They can affect beneficial insects, pollinators, and sometimes create other pest problems if they're used the wrong way. So, if you think you're dealing with box tree moth, especially if you're outside the known quarantine area, the smart move, if you're unsure, is to get a professional to identify and confirm that you do in fact have box tree moths. And if so, you can decide then whether you want to treat it yourself or hire a professional to do that too. Again, if you're doing it yourself, I highly recommend you follow the instructions on the label of the treatment you buy. And if you're unsure about the process in any way, just hire a professional. You can't go wrong going down that route. The reason this is such a big problem too is because boxwoods are everywhere. They're not just random shrubs. They are used by so many homeowners and landscapers to frame houses, define walkways, make hedges, and create beautiful landscapes. When those plants get wiped out, it changes the whole look of a property. And when you don't know why or can't stop it, it only leads to disappointment when looking at your garden. So, protecting existing boxwoods where it makes sense and being careful about how damaged material is handled is a big deal. So if you already have boxwoods in your landscape, it's a good idea to start paying close attention to them. Look inside the plant, not just at the outside. Check for webbing, chewed leaves, caterpillars, droppings, and sudden brown patches. If you're a homeowner, don't just assume the shrub is dying for no reason. And if you're dealing with an infested shrub, check if you're in a quarantine area, as that determines what you can and should do. And check with the local guidance on next steps, whether that be advice on the best treatment to buy or recommendations for professional help. Box tree moths are already here, and the goal now is to slow the spread, catch infestations early, and handle the problem responsibly before they cost the country billions. Because once these caterpillars get established in a row of boxwoods, they can turn a clean, healthy landscape into a brown, chewed-up mess fast. So keep an eye on your boxwoods, know what this pest looks like, and if you see damage like this, don't ignore it. Get it identified properly, follow local guidance, and make sure whatever's done is done safely, properly, and at the right time. That's how you can properly protect your garden and your wallet from a pest that's become a serious problem across the country.